Let's go.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. We are here in Classroom 2 to introduce three fabulous speakers on welcoming back your staff. Leading the discussion will be Linda Hayes. She used to own the Inn at Riverbend and is a consultant in our industry. Carrie Paul used to run and own the Sayre Mansion and is the Director of Quality Assurance for Select Registry. And last but certainly not least is Amy Smith, who is the owner and general manager of the Saratoga Arms Hotel, three fabulous professional women in our industry who can certainly give you a lot of ideas. Linda, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Marilyn, for that. Well, there's so much that's going on and so much change. When I think of the last time that many of us saw each other, there was a little bit of a virus coming along, and gosh, our practices have changed. So today we wanted to pull together Carrie and Amy, because Amy's open, and let her share with you what she's facing. And Carrie's been working on some of the requirements that Select Registry has put in place, or suggestions as far as things that might be helpful. So I'm not going to take any more time to cover overage. I want to just turn it over to Amy so we can get started and cover some of these things that she's been dealing with. So Amy?
Sure. Just to let everybody know, I am in the state of New York. So when you look at your property and your state and your area, your mileage may vary. But New York has been at the precipice of much of this from the beginning. So we are the most strict, and we are the most strict as we come out of it. So I think that we are doing things in a way that are very, very different, and you can take what is most comfortable for you and your state. So as you know, we move forward, we were decided to be open. We were a what the New York State would deemed an essential business. We didn't have to close, but we ended up closing for 6 weeks. When we decided to bring our staff back, we did this in a video email to all staff. I'm a larger property, and it just seemed to be the easiest to do that. So there are 14 people that we were looking to bring back, and we discussed not only what we are looking for when they're coming back, but also how we're going to keep them safe and healthy. That is your main priority, is to make sure that your staff members feel comfortable coming back to work. And that, as we move forward in this presentation, is, if you remember anything, communication is the key. So if you have staff members, over communicate, have more staff meetings, make sure that you are, and as things change, which they are changing on a daily basis in our state, and I'm sure as you are opening or have opened, things that you did 3 weeks ago, you're not doing right now. So I have shared that link to you. It's me about in the month of April, giving a 3-minute little dialogue as to how we're going to bring our staff back and what our needs are for them. Those who did not want to come back, we then had a little heavy-handed. You have something called a recall letter. So many people, as you are knowing, probably as you're trying to bring people back, they don't necessarily want to come back until the end of July. Why is that? There's an extra $600 coming in on unemployment. People are not, they might be earning more being at home than they would be at your property. So if you desperately need them, you have a job for them, there is something called a recall letter. That is also in that Drive link there. Tailor it to your state and to your property if you are interested in having them come back. Now, there were 3 people that have decided not to come back for many concerns. One was living with an elderly mom, the other had her own health issues, and the third one was just not comfortable coming back. So we decided not to bring those people back. So we came in on a lower staff number. We also had some issues with daycare. We have some single moms. How do you deal with that? What do you do? We were very inventive, and I would hope that you are inventive as well. We had other people that were staying at home that took this young child for hours so our staff member could work. We also allowed her to bring her child into work. So that is something, if you are not busy and you had a little room, or, you know, we have a dining room with a wonderful drop down screen that this young boy watched a couple movies while she could get some paperwork done. So really try to be inventive, try to think about the things that you would never do in the past, but you need to do now in order to get up and running. But the thing that is most helpful to us is that we followed the guidelines from our State Hospitality Association. We also, as an ALP member, you have the option for information from H&LA, which we had some great information from them. And then we are Select Registry members. So if you're Select Registry members, their Select Safe program is a wealth of information to help you determine your protocols as you go forward. Next slide, Linda. So what do you do when you bring staff back? There are some things that you want to make sure that people are coming through your door are very, very healthy and safe. We created a daily health declaration. It's self-administered. So as you know, I don't know how many nurses and doctors you have on staff. We don't have any. So it is something that our staff members sign and date every day. So there are the three things: making sure that they don't have any symptoms, that they haven't been had a positive test in the last 14 days, and they haven't been in close contact. They take their own temperature with the infrared, sign it, and then they put it in the folder. No one looks at that. So it's in their own folder. We only look at it if there is an issue as we move forward. Next slide, Linda. So what do you do? How do you physically change your property to keep your staff safe? So on the left, you see a front desk that has no barriers, nothing, it's just very open. And as you're looking at your property, if you're a historic property, things tend to be smaller than they are in new, you know, purpose-built properties where things are larger. So if you have an opportunity to either move your front desk or to put up the plexiglass barriers in order to provide that distance, do so. Having open air stuff just doesn't jive anymore. It's not going to happen. We decided to take, which was our guest pantry, and which was the snacks and the coffee and the ice machine. We just retrofitted it into a desk. The actual glass was already there. We just added a desk, and that's where our staff members now will greet our front desk, or our guests as they come in. You also have to rethink some operations and how you, and this is all about rethinking operations. We have, because they're behind closed doors, we are, the term I tell my staff members, this is cleaning theater here, folks, where before, where you were doing your cleaning behind the scenes and you didn't want your guests to know, and you didn't want your guests to see everybody in gloves and with all the chemicals. Now they want to see it. Now they want to know that you are clean. It's a sense of comfort. So at our front desk, our staff members are masked, they are gloved. When they hand a pen to a guest to check in, they sanitize that pen and then hand it to them, or put that on the shelf where that phone is right there. You really have to think the changes, even the little minute changes, give the staff members and also your guests a sense of comfort. Next slide. So you can't overstate where you put your hand sanitizing stations. Put them everywhere. I mean, everywhere. We have the luxury of having an elevator. We have 2 elevators actually, and 5 door openings. We bought these wonderful stations, these shelving stations, from a place called Seal Blue. That's CEILBLUE.com. And they're great. We put them everywhere. And they housed a 16-ounce hand sanitizing pump from, and we like this disinfectant. It smells nice. It's not very chemically. And that is, and not alcohol based. I mean, it is alcohol based, but it doesn't smell like alcohol. And it's from a Dr. Bright, B-R-I-T-E. And that's D-R-B-R-I-T-E. We put them everywhere. Front desk, we put them at exterior doors, in our kitchen. Put them everywhere. Your guests will use it, but not only that, your staff will use it. I'm so surprised to see staff members just, oh, they move from one place to another and squirt. They just take a squirt and off they go. Next slide, Linda. So staff, the main thing that we do, and I'm sure everyone does, is their breakfast is a huge component.
Amy, could you, somebody's asking the name of that hand sanitizer real quick.
Yes, Dr. Bright, DRBRITE.com. It's not cheap, but it's yummy. It smells nice. It's a citrusy kind of disinfectant, hand sanitizer. A big component of the guest experience is our breakfast. So we normally have wait staff. You might normally have wait staff in one particular dining room. How are you going to keep your guests, or I'm sorry, your staff members safe in a large dining room with lots of people that are not wearing masks? You have to rethink that a little bit. Do you have an opportunity to put people outside? Do you have an opportunity to provide room service for them? I'm so surprised how many people have taken us up on other options for their breakfast. So many people are doing room service. They like the comfort of having that wonderful farm to table breakfast that they normally would have down the dining room, but in the comfort of their own four walls, their own room. You know, before COVID, we had a buffet. The days of the buffet are gone, and we only had people in our dining room because that's where the buffet was located. Now there's 3 options for breakfast. Our front porch, which we socially distance, you can see on the left-hand side, 7 tables. We have socially distanced our dining room, and now we also have our room service. So in order to serve a possibility of 60 people in a socially distant opportunity and way, we are able to do that with 3 different areas. So rethink your operations. Is there an opportunity to do breakfast in different areas for you? And that will make your staff members much more comfortable than feeling like they're amongst a lot of guests, obviously with no masks on, because they have to take their masks off when they eat. Next slide. So as I continue with this cleaning theater and the safety theater, these sort of things, everything we have now with our breakfast is covered. Our staff members, not only are our staff members masked and gloved, but the food now is covered. We want to make sure that our staff don't not inconspicuously, but inadvertently touch something that a guest might have also touched with their mouth or with their fork. So we have plate covers. We have over the glass is something called a stand cap. I'm not sure if anybody remember those in the 1950s motels when you used to go. They used to stick those on top of the cap, on the top of the glasses in the bathroom. But they have really nice ones now, and they have them in every single size you can imagine. There's a wonderful company called the Stand Cap Company, and that's STANCAP.net. Actually, it's standcaps, plural.net. And they will send you, if you have a FedEx number, they'll send you their box of every size. So we decided to buy that. It's just so easy to stick that on and off you go. So whether it's the room service, the dining room, or the front porch, everything is covered. So our guests and our staff members feel like they're doing the right thing when they're doing their food. Our silverware and our dining room, which was an extravagant and elaborate dining room setup, now looks like they're going to a picnic. Does not make us feel happy about that, but the guests feel much more comfortable with that. And so it's a lot of prep work from our staff, and stuff that we just put down prior to right after the breakfast service was over. Is now there's a lot of prep work. So people that are doing certain jobs as staff members are doing other jobs now. It's everybody, as we all say, we're all doing all the things. And that's true, because things that were normally in a certain staff member's job purview has changed. it has changed. So if you next slide. And last but not least, we are in New York. We require everyone to wear a face mask in public areas. So the thing that we really have, we do a soft touch, and we don't really ask our frontline staff members to do that for our guests. We have some people that have come in without masks, but we make sure that a manager or someone in a higher authority is around if there's an issue. And we always do a, oh, you must have forgotten your mask. We have so many extra. Let me just grab one for you. And we just hand it to them. We don't berate them. We don't say that it's a mandatory. These are at all of our exterior entrances. So before they walk in the door, they see that. And it's kind of a cute little, you know, person with a mask. It's not, you know, the exclamation points and red and, you know, dire things. And so far so good. But, you know, as we see more staff, or excuse me, as we see more guests from other areas that have a little more relaxed rules and regs, I'm sure we're going to come up on it. But we have staff members, many people, you will see as you bring your staff back and they are wearing masks, guests will follow what the staff do. So if your staff members are wearing their mask, and that is extremely important, and that the guests will follow. So
Okay.
that's what I have. I have the Google Drive link that is at the very front of that, has all sorts of stuff we did. So we have a welcome sheet. We don't really walk guests to their rooms or take luggage up anymore. So we provide them with a welcome sheet that they have all their information that they usually hear from us as we walk them from the front desk up to their room. It's sort of that mini tour that has gone away. Contactless check-in. We are now investigating contactless check-in through texting. I know that many other properties are thinking about doing that. And as we are seeing guests, they really don't want to linger. Please note that they don't want to stay at the desk. They want to go up to their room, have a sense of comfort, and then come down at their leisure and figure out where they feel most comfortable. I also have some cleaning, sanitizing when I said we have, it's a cleaning theater. There's two forms. One is a public area sanitizing form that we do on the hour, every hour, that the staff members do. And also we have after the room is cleaned, we have a 40-point checklist, a sanitizing checklist. So I've included that in the drive as well. So I'm going to hand it off to Carrie. That's it.
Let me advance. Sorry, we went backwards. Let me just first say, Amy, thank you so much for sharing so many examples. It's so helpful to see the pictures and to really firsthand hear what you've been doing. So if anyone has questions specifically for Amy, if we can just hold it, because Carrie may be answering some of your questions that you'll have too. So with that, Carrie, let's talk about Select Safe and what you guys have done with Select Registries guidelines.
Great, thank you. So at Select Registry, we developed a program called Select Safe. We did that it was a twofold purpose, really, to help our members sort of distill from the vast amount of information that's out there for lodging operators to how to change their operational procedures, to sort of pick from the best of that and the most applicable to smaller independent lodging properties. And also to help them find a way to communicate their new operational procedures to the general public. When you spend all of this time developing your new operational procedures, deciding how you're going to handle the safety of your guests and staff, how do you tell other people what you're doing? So that is sort of why we developed the program. And there are 28 points on the checklist for the Select Safe program, but I'm just going to talk about the ones that are directly staff facing today. If you could move to the next slide, Linda, please. So first of all, I think that one of the most important things you guys can do as the leaders in your lodging properties is to educate your employees on the new operational procedures and the COVID-19 prevention measures that you've decided to implement at your property. So the most important thing is before you welcome back your employees or as you welcome back your employees, know what you're planning to do at your property. You want to have your operational policies distilled before you bring your staff back. If possible, put those into a written document so that you have that to give to them so that they can refer back to it. As we all know, you don't always grab all of the information on the first round of training. And so if you have it written down for them, it's such a valuable resource for them to refer back to. And make sure that you have a plan, not only for how you're going to proceed, how you're going to monitor and enforce the policies that you put into place. While employees are always well-intentioned and trying to follow the best practices that you as operators have put into place, everyone exists right now on a spectrum of comfort, from very fearful to interacting with the public to very comfortable with interacting in the public. And your employees are all different people. They're all going to have a different place on that comfort spectrum. So you want to know that if you have employees who are super comfortable interacting with the public and you have a mask policy, they may not be super invested in following that mask policy. So you need to know how, as operators, you're going to enforce your policies that you put into place. Make sure that you're holding frequent staff meetings to discuss new procedures. As Amy talked about, everything is changing minute to minute, day by day right now. Locations that had been fully opened are scaling back and going back into lockdown. Other places are forging ahead. It's a minute to minute thing, and your staff, like you, are being inundated with a crazy amount of information. So you want to make sure that as their leader, you're really setting the tone for behavior in your property and what you're doing now, today. So make sure that when you hold those meetings, though, that you're also allowing for social distancing there. Hold them outside. I love Amy's video message to her staff. That's such a great way to be able to portray information without having everybody in a crowded space. Or hold them in small groups where you can just have your space with each other. You may have to do more staff meetings in that case, depending on how large your staff is. The second point that was employee facing in the Select Safe program is educating your employees on proper hand cleaning and wash hands hourly, before and after every contact with a surface that in a high touch area, and as per normal hand washing guidelines. You know, as hospitality operators, your employees have been trained to wash their hands when appropriate, but just making sure that that information is front and center for them and reinforcing that basic cleanliness is a good policy right now. Let me pass to the next slide, please.
Wait. Let me get there. It switched.
And then the next point that we wanted to talk about in our program was that employees wear their appropriate PPE according to your state and local regulations. Everybody's got different recommendations right now, so you really need to turn to your state and local government sources. Most states have a .gov site that you can go to refer to what their COVID policies are and what you as business owners are obligated to do in your specific location. So make sure that you're familiar with what is required of you where you are, and then provide training and, if necessary, the actual PPE equipment for your staff. There are great videos out there, training videos. YouTube has a whole bunch, and Ecolab has some good ones as well on proper use and disposal of masks and gloves. So you may want, they're real short, 3 to 5 minutes. You may want to include that in some of your staff training sessions. And then also be aware that masks and gloves, or masks particularly, come in a wide variety of aesthetic lines right now. You can get anything you want on a mask at this point. So you really want your employees' mask wearing to reflect your property brand. If you're a formal property, consider getting a branded mask that has your property brand right on it. If you're more casual, consider defining just a color that everybody would wear, like all staff members wear blue. It makes your staff members easy to identify for guests, as well as ensuring just a nice uniform look across the property. Thank you. Also, housekeepers are, as lodging operators, they're sort of the bricks upon which every good thing comes in our properties. They're responsible for keeping your property clean at all times, and now more than ever, that's so, so important to guests, as Amy mentioned. And we want to make sure that we are protecting them. So make sure that you have firm policies in place for your housekeepers. They should be wearing masks and gloves, and consider face shields too. They work with a lot of splash objects, the toilet, everything in the bathroom, and you really, like, as much as possible, you want to be enforcing that to them at every step along the way to keep themselves protected while they're doing some of the quote unquote dirty work related to keeping the property safe. There are locations that if you're requiring an employee to wear certain things, that you must provide them. So be aware of what your local and state requirements are related to that, and make sure that you're in compliance. If you're requiring a certain color of mask, you may be required to provide that. So just before you start to enact your policies, always double check back to state and local requirements and make sure you're in compliance there. Next, we recommend, checking the temperatures of your employees and making sure that anybody that pops a temperature of greater than 100.4 would not be allowed entry to your property. So you're going to have to think about, there's a lot of things to think about there. First is that, where do you do your temperature checks? Are you doing them at the staff entry point? Where are you going to do that so that there's not a cross-contamination if they are ill? Another thing to think about is there is some talk that recording temperatures could violate employees' HIPAA privacy rights. I think this is a very localized thing. So make sure that, again, your local and state recommendations aren't requiring you to not log that information, or that you're following the proper storage of that information when you are allowed to log it. Also think about backup scheduling plans. If you have a large staff, or however large your staff is, if you have a key employee who becomes ill, you want to have a backup plan for what you're going to do and how you're going to operate in the absence of that employee. One way to think about that is scheduling in cohorts. An example might be if you have 2 housekeepers at your property and 2 front desk people at your property, housekeeper A and front desk person A would work the same shifts. Housekeeper B and front desk person B would work the same shifts. That way, if you have a contamination that occurs in one group or the other, you always have a backup set that, they may need to work some additional hours. You may need to work some additional hours to compensate for that, but you've got that plan in place so it becomes less frightening if you do lose a key person. We are also recommending that you post signage related to COVID-19 prevention measures in your staff areas. So if you have a specific area where staff schedules are posted, where they maybe clock in or out, their break room, wherever it is that your staff go, that's sort of back of the house area, that you're putting up some prevention measure postings. Again, as much training as you do, the more it's in their face and sort of out there for them to see at every turn, the more compliance you can expect to see. The CDC has a great library of print materials for this. They're free to download. You can print them right in your home office. They're really great. I collected some of the staff-facing ones that would be great for your properties and put them in a folder that you can download going forward. Also, think about shared employee tools and equipment. So, if you have one phone at your front desk that anybody who's walking by the front desk is trained to answer, you want to make sure that there's a policy in place that it's getting sanitized between use, or that you're dedicating a specific person to that phone. So for the 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift that you might have at your property, one person is going to use that particular phone, and when they're gone for the day, you sanitize, wipe that phone, it's ready for your next staff person. Examples of things to think about: phones, keyboards at your reservation computer, the screen at your reservation computer, any master keys that are transferred from one staff person to another, any specific tools that are transferred from one person to another. All of those, you want to have a plan for how you're going to sanitize those as they get transferred from employee to employee. And you might want to think about task consolidation, assigning workstations. If you are a larger property and you have multiple areas where guests can interact with your staff, you know, keeping one staff person at one and another at the front desk, for example, will allow those staff to come into contact with the least surfaces that have been touched with other people. And these are just some training resources for you. Ecolab Hospitality Resource Library, I provided a link here, but you can also just Google that. They have an amazing array of training videos for staff. It's a great resource. And regardless of what state you live in, Hospitality Maine's COVID Readiness course is a really nice piece of work that you can either do yourself or have your staff go through it. It's small modules and it's really good. It's not Maine specific for the most part. It's just very generalized COVID information. And then of course the slide deck and a set of training handouts is available at the link provided here.
All righty, lots of wonderful information. So now I want to open it up to questions. So Marilyn, do we have any questions in the chat box? And if we don't, then everyone can certainly write in and we'll be happy to field these questions to our group here.
None at the present time.
Anyone have anything? All right, well, lots of information. It's amazing how much we have to think about. You know, just everything is so different.
Let me,
with all of this, we'll never get the flu in the winter either. So
I'll start with a question.
Okay.
Has anyone thought of the potential of workers' comp and how, if someone gets ill, how you might be dealing with that to assure that it didn't happen in the workplace?
You know, that's a really, really, really great question. And we are, at the moment, we are trying to nip anything that is, we're not that busy. So, you know what I mean? I am one of those properties that is just starting to ramp up, but I am wondering what my obligation is in terms of when we are starting to be full. And that's why these practices are so important to keep in place. We have a wonderful workers' comp company that we deal with that has a ton of information. And truth be told, because I'm not in a position where I need to look at it at the moment, where I'm in this sort of situation, that I am at the moment not looking at it. I mean, I haven't looked at it, so. But we're really, really careful. We're really, really, really careful. And I think if there's anything that you can take from this, is that this is not for slacking on policies is not the way to go right now. That is definitely for sure. Carrie, do you have anything? Have you encountered anything along those lines for?
I have not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
me either.
We haven't come into contact with it, but I think, you know, as you said, what's super important here is prevention is always the key to all of this. And the more policies you put in place to keep your staff safe, the less you're going to have to worry about those eventualities.
There was a question in the chat room that I was in before about talking about guests being compliant with, say, masks and respecting your procedures, which is what is protecting your staff too. What are you seeing, Amy, with the guests who you have had come to the property?
So far, so good. So we, because it's a nice time of year, people are spending a lot of time outdoors. So the indoor time that guests are having is very transient. So they're not lingering in our front parlor. They're not lingering. They tend to have their breakfast out on the front porch. So we are not having to, if there is someone who does not have a mask on, it's coming down the stairs and then walking out the door. So we have, again, we are very, very cognizant of the fact that we are not the police, but yet we are really strong encouragers. We do a soft touch. It's really important to have these masks on hand, and we use a lot of what we call the disposable masks. So we have those at the front desk, and we will always offer someone. I just checked someone in just 2 days ago. He came in without a mask, and I said, our only requirement is that you wear a mask. Do you have one, or shall I get one for you? And, can I have one? Yeah, that's really how so if it's a soft touch and you yourself are wearing a mask, we tend to be in a good place.
Okay. Comments that I've heard from other properties is that where in the past we've had sometimes those guests who feel a little entitled, that's not at all what they're feeling. People are so grateful that your lodging property is open, and especially if they're a repeat guest and they've visited before, they've known your cleanliness, they've known your hospitality, and they just seem so grateful that they get to come and visit. And especially if they've been quarantined in a condo, in an apartment, and something that was very small, the comments I'm hearing is they're just thrilled that, one, because of your outdoor space and the fact you're taking care of them and you're being kind, that they're happy to comply. I've heard amazing comments about the changes in breakfast, and guests who before might never have said, well, I'll pick up my own tray, are happy to come and pick up a tray and take it outdoors and be able to do that. So it's great to see that for the most part. I think we're hearing about people being very happy to do whatever because they're grateful that you're open. So
Yeah.
Let's hope that continues.
Yeah, and I would also add that I think something that is, again, back to prevention, is communication with your guests. If you're including information about what you're requiring at your property in your confirmation letter on your website, making sure that guests all through the booking journey have been made aware of what's happening at your property, they're very likely to be very compliant with the policies you put in place. And like Linda said, grateful for them because you're keeping not only your staff safe, but them also.
That's a good point, because I've had a couple of people have said, gee, I'm not getting as many reservations, or I've got a lot of cancellations. And when I view their website, they look very tone deaf to COVID. They don't have a pop-up statement. There's not something telling about when they're open. So I think for any of our guests who are coming back and booking, they're looking for that reassurance that you've done everything you can with yourself, your staff, and your property to make sure that you're welcoming them back to a safe environment. So, Marilyn, any questions that have popped up?
No chat questions at this point. Would anyone care to, I can even unmute you if you prefer. I just can't see everybody.
All right, well then,
All right.
if we're good, and thank you all. Thank you so much for sharing all of your practices and what you're doing, and Amy for all your images. Visual helps us all so much, and also the sources, both of you, that you shared with us. I do hope this helps everybody with what they're doing. Our email addresses are here, so don't hesitate to reach out if you've got a question. If we can be a source of a shortcut for you, or an idea, or something that you just want to know how to handle, please contact any one of us and we'll be happy to help.
Linda, I assume everybody can get these slides from...
It's going to be sending out the recordings after they're edited, so everyone will be able to find them. So there will be links that will probably be on the ALP website to this development day as well as others. Okay, so you can always catch up if there's something you missed or you want to play it back, and certainly to be able to pick the links up that are in this recording. Okay.
Great.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.